Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee. A great crowd of people followed him because they had seen him healing the sick. Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him.
Philip, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?
He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do.
It would take more than a half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite.
Then Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up.
Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many?
Have the people sit down.
There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When everyone had enough to eat,
Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted.
so they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over. The people saw what had happened.
Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world.
It has to be.
Jesus knew they intended to come and make him king by force, so he withdrew again to a mountain by himself.
When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, where they got into a boat and set off across the lake for Capernaum. It was dark and Jesus had not yet joined them. A strong wind was blowing and the waters grew rough. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus approaching the boat, walking on the water, and they were frightened.
It is I. Don't be afraid.
Then they were willing to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat reached the shore where they were heading. The next day, the crowd that had stayed on the opposite shore of the lake realized that only one boat had been there, and that Jesus had not entered it with his disciples, but they had gone without him. Then some boats from Tiberias landed near them. Since neither Jesus nor his disciples were there, they got into the boats and went to Capernaum in search of him.
They found him on the other side of the lake.
Rabbi, when did you get here?
Truly I tell you, you are looking for me, not because you saw the signs I performed, but because you ate the loaves and had your fill. Do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life.
What must we do to do the works God requires?
The work of God is to believe in the one he has sent.
What sign will you give us, that we may see and believe in you?
What will you do?
Our ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness. It is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat.
Truly I tell you, it is not Moses who has given you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven.
Sir, always give us this bread.
I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, for I have come down from heaven not to do my will, but to do the will of him who sent me. Everyone who believes in the Son shall have eternal life.
Did he just say he came down from heaven?
This is Jesus, the son of Joseph. We know his father and mother. How can he say, I came down from heaven?
Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, yet they died. But I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. This bread is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world.
Then the Jews began to argue sharply among themselves.
Whoa, wait a minute. How can this man give us his flesh to eat?
Whoever eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life.
Jesus said this while teaching in the synagogue of Capernaum.
This is a hard teaching. Who can accept it?
From this time, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him.
You do not want to leave too, do you?
Simon Peter answered him,
Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and to know that you are the Holy One of God.